Keith, how you doing? Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call the October 6th meeting to order, please. You'd rise, Mr. Wilder, lead us in prayer, and Butcher lead us in the pledge.
Allah with us. Lord, we want to thank you for this. I want to thank you for the many blessings on this community. I want to ask you to look out for around our first responders, our law enforcement, and our military, both here and abroad. Guide us tonight, lead us tonight. And thank you for all the folks that have taken time out of their week to come. All these things.
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, one nation, God, justice for all. Before we begin the meeting, I'd like to read this to clarify that the Planning Commission is a recommended body to the Clement County Board of Commissioners. The decisions made on rezoning and variance requests tonight will be forwarded to the Commissioners for final action on, October the 18th, 2022. If you wish to address the Board of Commissioners at their meeting, please see Ms. Catherine Wise to obtain a request to speak for. Okay. First item on the agenda is temporary use authorization with Ms. Montgomery. What?
I believe we skipped the minutes in the agenda.
Yep. So I'm jumping ahead on it.
Sir.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by raising your hand. We need approval of the agenda also.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay, now, no unfinished business, so we'll have a temporary use authorization with Ms. Montgomery.
Yes, sir. This is a request for a temporary use authorization at 7003 Moontown Road, currently zoned RA Residential Agricultural. This is the location of the property off Cobham Road and Moontown Road, again, currently zoned RA. There is an existing metal building on the site, and there is the family who's living out here using a travel trailer adjacent to that building as part of their residential use. They are working towards getting a permanent home on the property, so they are requesting the temporary use authorization for the 12 months while they work towards the permanent residence. And staff is recommending approval.
Comments? We have a request for a motion to approve or disapprove.
Mr. Chairman.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the temporary use of loss authorization, 7003 Moontown Road.
Second. Any conversation? All in favor signify by raising your right hands. Next item is a preliminary plat for 4 Oak Phase 3. Ms. Montgomery.
Yes, sir. This is the preliminary plat for Phase 3 of 4 Oaks Subdivision located off Hereford Farm Road. This is the location of this phase. These are the existing phases of 4 Oaks over here and the Bartram Trail Golf Course adjacent. Preliminary plat includes 21 single-family lots on the 13.4 acres. The minimum lot size is 10,043 square feet, which exceeds the minimum requirements for the R2 zoning district. The lots will have front setbacks of 55 feet from the center line of the road and side and rear setbacks of 10 feet. 3 of the cul-de-sac lots do have road frontages less than 50 feet. These have been reviewed and approved by the county engineer prior to this plat being presented to you. Sidewalks and street trees are to be provided on both sides of the road, and 3.5 acres of open space is provided in this section. The site is being mass graded, but did have a variance approved for the buffer requirements. Part of the conditions of that variance were that a landscape plan be submitted with the preliminary plat. We did receive that with the most recent submittal, and you can see it on the screen here, including the additional plantings where the buffer was reduced to 0 feet, as well as additional plantings where the buffer has to be reduced due to utility intrusions. and staff is recommending approval of the preliminary plat.
Any questions or comments?
Chair, make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for Four Oaks Phase 3.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Okay, next item on the agenda is the final plat for Hanover Place.
Yes, sir.
Montgomery.
This is the final plat for Hanover Place off Evans to Locks Road. This was actually the first planned residential development that received zoning approval in the county. So this is the location off Evans to Locks Road. And the final plat includes 30 single-family residential lots with a minimum lot size of 5,215 square feet and an average lot size of 7,081 square feet. All of the lots are to be accessed via the alleys at the rear of the properties. Required setbacks are 10 feet from both the front and the rear property lines, and either 7.5 or 10 feet from the side property lines, depending on the lot width. Driveways are required to be at least 18 feet in length, as measured from the edge of the alley, to allow space for vehicles to park on the driveway without blocking the traffic flow in the alleys. The PRD requires 15-foot structural buffers on most of the property lines, and a 20-foot buffer on Evans to Locks Road, and a 25-foot structural buffer along the northeast and east property lines. There was a change of conditions application for this particular development that did have conditions regarding that buffer. The site currently does not meet those conditions, but we are working through that with the applicants through the plan review process. Inspection of the site will continue and with the county landscape architect to ensure those conditions are met. There is 0.85 acres of open space provided in this development, which is nearly 12% of the site area. This includes the central park area and the open space in the northwest corner of the site. Sidewalks and street trees are provided on both sides of the road, and all of the roads in the development are to remain private. This is the existing site, and staff is recommending approval of the final plat subject to satisfaction of all of the interdepartmental comments through the plan review process.
Any comments? Floor is open for a motion to accept or deny.
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat for Hanover Place, subject to interdepartmental.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. If we're going into the public hearing section of tonight's meeting, if anybody likes to come up, make a comment, you're limited to 5 minutes, and we need your name and address, and you come to the microphone in the front. The first item on the agenda is a major PUD revision for Georgia Pine Trail, Ms. Montgomery.
Yes, sir. This is a request for a major PUD revision in the Whispering Pines subdivision for a portion of the property located off Georgia Pine Trail. This is the location of the site towards the back of the development. You can see William Few in the main entrance to the south. Again, the property is currently zoned planned unit development. That was rezoned in 2005. Most recent major revision was in 2016. That's now the kind of base zoning file for this area. Surrounding properties to the south and the east are also part of Whispering Pines. And then you have the Windmill Plantation PUD to the north and property zoned RA to the west. This is the area of the site currently undeveloped. You can see the gas line easement running along the property line that is leading to this request tonight. This is the existing site. And the proposal, this section of Whispering Pines is being mass graded. Our ordinance does require a 50-foot buffer around the perimeter of the site when that happens. For this particular property, since two sides of it are other sections of Whispering Pines, and the north side adjacent to Windmill has a 40-foot buffer as defined in the PUD. The really side we're concerned with is just this side here. The issue is that 50-foot gas line easement is also right along the property line, and you cannot plant trees in that easement. And then just inside of that, there's also a water line easement, which you also cannot plant trees in. So although there's about 75 feet of separation there between the back of the lots and the property lines of these adjacent RA properties, you cannot landscape any of that with the trees that would typically be required in a buffer. The applicant has instead proposed a 10-foot structural buffer on the rear of these lots, and you can see that on the plans. This would have a minimum of 2 trees per lot, final species to be coordinated with the county landscape architect, and the fence would be painted as a specific Spanish moss color that's intended to blend with the tree trunks on the adjacent properties. The lots do sit below these lots are lower than these, so the fence will essentially be at the highest point of the new lots. That should meet the intent of the code to provide kind of a visual break for those adjacent larger lots, even though they cannot provide the full 50-foot buffer with the existing utility easements there. This property is in the neighborhood's character area on the future development map. This area is intended for future neighborhood development. Property is already zoned for that. We're not changing the use here. And it is staff's opinion that the proposed alternate buffer plan meets the intent of the code to protect the adjacent residents from the new construction. We do have a couple conditions proposed, that the 10-foot structural buffer provided on the rear of those lines, that is basically defining a width for it, that it is a 10-foot buffer to be clearly shown on the plat, and that final plat should clearly state that the trees and fence may not be removed and shall specify if the homeowner or the HOA is responsible for maintenance of that buffer. Typically, when we have buffers present on a lot, we also have a 10-foot setback from the edge of the buffer. Due to the depth of the lots involved and kind of the general site, we are recommending removing that requirement for the 10-foot setback from the edge of the buffer in this case to allow the homeowners more use of that backyard up to the edge of that 10-foot buffer. And staff is recommending approval with those conditions.
Is anyone here that would like to address the commission to do with this issue? Anybody have any comments here? Make a motion to accept or deny.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve with conditions file RZ 22-10-01, major PUD revision to revise the buffer in Whispering Pines, Section 6.
Second.
Second.
All in favor signify by raising your right hands. This next item has been postponed, but Mr. Butler.
Well, it hasn't been postponed yet. You have to vote to postpone it, but they've requested 2 postponements. We're gonna kind of hit the high points and then let y'all do with it as you would. This is a request for an appeal on Section 9-7 and 9-135. So most of our sign code there. You can see there is no current zoning and it's within a CSX right-of-way. So back in July, a billboard sign permit was given to the planning department. That was subsequently denied. They have appealed that decision essentially. One of the things is that they've said since the property, if you'll go to the next slide, please. And also the next one. And the next one. Again, those are the plans. Again, I'm not going to get into kind of what all has been submitted at this point. But again, kind of what they're looking at is that you can see here there's no zoning on this right-of-way. One of the things with a billboard is it does, or specifically for a billboard, it does say it has to have a certain zoning classification. So that's one of the reasons that we've said we can't give you a permit. And then also within the right-of-way of CSX specifically is not zoned as well. They've said that because it's not zoned, they're free to do as they please, essentially. But again, this will all be adjudicated on the 20th at this point. That concludes our brief overview of it. And again, they requested to appeal or to move this to the October 20th Planning Commission meeting.
Do we have a motion to postpone this issue or deny it?
Chairman, I make a motion to postpone Bill 2210-01 until October 20th, 2022.
Second.
Second.
All in favor signify by your right hand. The next item is a conceptual plan of Whispering Pines Phase 6, with Ms. Montgomery.
Yes, sir. This is a revision to the concept plan for Section 6 of Whispering Pines located off Georgia Pine Trail. and currently zoned planned unit development. This is the location, this is the same section we just saw for the major revision. The original concept was approved for sections 4, 5, and 6 simultaneously in October of 2018. We did receive the preliminary plat for this section in January and noted that there were some changes to the road layout that were going to require a concept plan revision, which is the intent of this submittal. So mainly we're going to be looking at the road connection here. So we can see on the approved concept that the road crosses the floodplain area there. Their submitted plans get rid of that connection, so they have less impact to that sensitive area. So they now cul-de-sac the road on the west side there. They did also tweak some of the lot sizes with this. There were kind of 2 different lot sizes on each side of the road. They're now all one lot size on the new plan, so there's some minor tweaks with the lot sizes, but the main driver of the revision request is the change in the road layout from the connection to the cul-de-sac. Staff is in favor of this request. This is not an unusual request to avoid impacts to these areas and the cost of the crossing. And previous concept plan revisions have been approved for the same intent, and staff is recommending approval.
Is anyone here that would like to address the commission for or against this issue?
Keith Lawrence, 211 Dixon Court. One of the main reasons, besides the environmental impact, was some changes in some stormwater guidelines that increased the size of the detention ponds, and we were not able to accomplish it with the road. So that was really one of the big driving, and we've actually got less lots than we came to you guys with on that.
Any questions for Mr. Lawrence? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any more comments?
Chairman, I motion to approve the revision to the concept plan for Whispering Pines, Section 6.
Second.
All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Mr. Sterling,
Yes, sir.
this next issue is part of what you want to do tonight.
Yeah, so on Tuesday night, the Board of Commissioners adopted a resolution to establish a moratorium for the purpose of no longer allowing billboards to be, billboard applications, submitted to the county for the next 90 days. And that was the intent to then provide staff in the county to an opportunity to reevaluate our current billboard sign ordinance and make any proposed changes within that time period. So the request before you tonight is to go ahead and formally request staff to process that billboard sign revision request.
And to do it by a vote.
Yeah, you'll take that by vote to go ahead and authorize us to initiate that text amendment.
Is there a motion to approve H2H1?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Comments? All in favor signify by raising your right hands. No legal matters, no staff and commission comments. I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Setting a record.
I can call Clay.
You can.
No is the answer.
The question is, will you get pulled up?
I'll start.